So I'd like to move on and now introduce Arthur. Arthur Potter, you've joined us from Community Action Strathaven. Absolutely brilliant to have you here today. Thanks for joining. And I think it'd be really great to hear the voice from a community perspective. So welcome, Arthur.
Yeah, hi everyone. Great to be here, and it's been a really interesting and inspiring chat so far. So thank you very much to all the kind of organisers and speakers. If I could just start off about kind of talking about what Climate Action Strathaven is and what we actually do.
Sure.
So Climate Action Strathaven is a kind of relatively new community-based charity in the town of Strathaven, which is in South Lanarkshire. We started in early 2020. I would probably categorise our activities into kind of three main sections. So the first one is projects, which has probably been the bulk of what we've been doing so far. Our projects have been mainly focused on promoting sustainable and active travel, which has included opening a cycle repair shop early this year, in which we've offered £9,000 of free repairs through the government voucher scheme. Last month, we officially launched the Strathaven Car Club to promote car sharing in the community and to try and get as many cars off our really, really busy roads. Just last week, we took delivery of our first 4 electric bikes, which are available for rental at much lower than market rates. These have been pretty much out constantly and bookings filling up quickly over the summer. Such has been the demand that we're taking on delivery of another 3 in the next couple of weeks, and then we're hoping to add another 5 to 10 electric bikes over the next few months. We also have an electric cargo bike, which we've been using to provide near zero emission deliveries for local businesses. Also, significantly last month, we opened up our Eco Hub in the centre of the town, which we share with the post office. This has been really good for kind of building awareness and having a presence in the community. And the footfall from all the post office customers has really enabled us to kind of talk to so many people that just wouldn't usually be able to reach any other way. In our Eco Hub, we're also planning to launch in the next few weeks with some local partners a zero waste and locally sourced grocery shop, as well as a zero waste home care shop. That probably sums up the projects that we've done so far, but in the pipeline, we're kind of working on adding bus routes to Strathaven. We've had some early kind of discussions with bus operators about that. We're also planning a big energy retrofit project, which we're really excited about, which would see homes in Strathaven achieve 80 to 90% more energy efficiency as opposed to the kind of 10 to 20% retrofit standard that's currently supported by government. There are also many other things like community gardens, community fridges, cycle routes, pedestrianisation, tree planting. They're all kind of part of our vision for the future of Strathaven. The second part of our activities is kind of education and advice services. So this is about us being able to offer advice to local businesses on how to kind of make the steps in becoming more sustainable, as well as kind of offering advice on things like how to make their homes more energy efficient and also things like electric cars. I had a guy that came into the hub the other day, and he was kind of talking about how his work had switched to electric vans a few years ago, and they kind of estimated that they'd saved tens, if not hundreds of £1,000s in doing that. So it's kind of all about presenting green choices as logical decisions, not just for the planet, but financially as well. We also aim to have a kind of close relationship with the schools in Strathaven. This has been restricted by COVID, but our kind of aim is to have like climate champions to kind of inspire positive climate behaviour, suggest and help on events and develop ideas, also write blogs on events and projects and kind of find out about projects in other places and report on them and do kind of like mini surveys on students' views and all that kind of thing. And I think this is all about kind of making sure that pupils have an active role in kind of building this more sustainable future for Strathaven, as well, after all, as their future. This has all been, it's been so helpful kind of knowledge sharing with communities in this as well, because what we did was we went and talked to the Forth Valley Link in Stirling and Find Futures in Butte, which are both community charities based around the environment, and they were so helpful with kind of giving us advice on how to connect with schools. The third aspect of our activities is campaigning and activism. From the very beginning, CAS has been involved in the climate strike in Glasgow, which we then replicated in Strathaven. And I suppose the kind of central point in this is that direct action does work. Whilst a lot of community-based climate action is about kind of extracting power to try and make change ourselves, it's also about holding those in power to account. And we saw after the climate strikes that the Scottish Government and several council areas declared a climate emergency and started to accelerate their net zero targets. After being inspired by this in the run-up to the Holyrood elections, CAS ran open public Zoom meetings with our MSP candidates from the SNP, the Conservatives, Green and Labour. and which is probably fair to say they were given a bit of a grilling by cast members. We're quite lucky that our MSP, Mary McCallan, is the Minister for the Environment as well, and also one of the other candidates, Claudia Beamish, is now the Labour spokesman for COP26. So I suppose it's probably our hope that their conversations with Cast will be ringing in their ears whenever they're making important decisions.
No, it's great, and I think that's why we're so keen to invite you along today, because the goal here is to tell stories, is to say what actions are you taking that are working, that are quantifiable, that others can follow, because everyone's at a different stage in the journey. So this is really about sharing the story, the wonderful stories that everyone's told today, from yourself, Arthur, from Michael, from Isabella, from Dougie, and sharing those stories. So thanks for that. Was a question for you, was there a moment for you personally where you just said, right, I can't carry on? Were you always driven by environmental affairs, or was there a moment where something just triggered and you suddenly thought, no, I've got to do something about this?
I don't know, it's kind of a weird one. I think naturally, I think people kind of switch off to environmentalism, because I think in theory people think it's a good idea, but then it kind of feels a bit insurmountable sometimes. From my perspective, it was always kind of about being able to turn climate action into something that's an opportunity. So my motivation for kind of getting involved in Climate Action Strathaven was that, well, I'm born and bred in Strathaven, and I'd recently kind of graduated from Glasgow Uni last year, and then I kind of always thought that Strathaven just has so much potential, and actually the way to unlock that potential is to kind of mobilise the community with all the kind of collective talent and ideas to kind of build this better and more sustainable future for Strathaven. I suppose it's about the fact that we can either wait for kind of green policies to be implemented by local and national government, or we can actually go out there and do it ourselves, and then in that way we actually have a say in how they're implemented. And I think instead of kind of living in Glasgow and stuff as well and going to university there, you always kind of feel like cities are always at the forefront of kind of green ideas and innovation. Yep. And from my perspective, it's always been like, why can't a town like Strathaven be at the forefront of that? And then I suppose CAS is the perfect vehicle to just kind of do just that.
So yeah, it's really great to hear that sort of inspiration. So if you were to give any advice to other communities looking to kind of make similar actions, what advice would you give to other communities?
Yeah, of course. So I think just get out there and go rest. You'll continually be inspired and motivated to make the next steps. So I think there's such a benefit in knowledge sharing as well. And I think this is what's so valuable about Net Zero Community Scotland. Whatever problem you encounter as a community or action you take, there's going to be another community out there that has already done the exact same thing. I think whatever problem there is, there's always a solution out there that's been put into practice by a group or a community somewhere. And one of the most invaluable things for CAS is being to engage with these communities across the UK. Every time before we launch a project, we make sure we look across the breadth of the UK and actually chat to people about how they've done it and what kind of challenges and barriers they've encountered. And I suppose it's our hope at CAS that we can kind of inspire other communities to do the same thing.
Great stuff. Well, we thank you for your time today. It's been absolutely brilliant, and we will continue to share the stories that you have to tell.